Wild West, aka the era of guns and gunslingers. The time when cowboys ruled the dusty towns with a straw in their mouths, hats on top of their heads, and guns always ready to put someone to sleep. So that's why we'll ride our horses back in time and discover the top 10 deadliest gunslingers to have ever lived in the history of the Wild West. Let's start, shall we? Number 1. Ben Thompson. Ben Thompson is undoubtedly one of the notorious criminals of the Wild West, known to be a gambler and an expert gunfighter. He was the celebrity of his era and had good connections with some of the most famous figures of the Old West. Ben got into the criminal business when he was just a young lad. When he was 17, he killed a fellow gambler by stabbing him to death because he accused the victim of cheating while playing cards with him. That was Ben's first kill, which would set him on a journey to be the most feared criminal of the Old West. Ben had excellent gun skills and was lightning fast with drawing his weapon, giving him an upper hand over most opponents. In 1876, on Christmas Eve, he killed 2 men during a shootout, which further spread his reputation. But Ben didn't like that attention and wanted to escape it. So he decided to redeem himself and took a job at the Texas City Marshal of Austin. Sadly, that job didn't last long, and he was forced to resign due to killing a theater owner named Jack Harris over an argument. Jack Harris's death was the last piece of the puzzle that would mark the end of Ben's journey. Ben Thompson and a fellow gunfighter named King Fisher met a tragic end in 1884. They were both gunned down by the comrades of Harris while they were enjoying a performance at an opera house. That was the end of Ben Thompson, a deadly gunslinger you wouldn't want to face if you were in the era of the Wild West. Number 2. King Fisher. John King Fisher, better known as the King Fisher of the Old West, is one of the lesser-known criminals of the Wild West era, but still one of the deadliest. He was a notorious, violent gunslinger who showed no mercy towards his opponents. He, on many occasions, single-handedly killed several people. Like Ben Thompson, Fisher's journey began at an early age. He was in and out of prison when he was only 16. In the early 1870s, Fisher had already gained his reputation as a feared bandit when he joined a group of outlaws who used to raid various ranches in Mexico. Fisher stands out the most among the gunslingers of that time, and it was all thanks to his unique style and bright-colored clothing. He carried 2 twin ivory-handled pistols, with whom he gunned down various opposers. Aside from everything, his level of violence was unmatchable. People would shut themselves in when he was on the move. Fisher was so ruthless that he showed no mercy, even towards comrades. He gunned down 3 members of his gang due to a dispute over money. Soon after that, he killed 7 Mexican pistoleros. And that's not even close to what Fisher did in his most famous fight. He single-handedly took down 4 Mexican cowboys in the most brutal way possible. He took down 1 with a branding iron and shot the other 3 in his typical violent style. And like we already said in the previous entry, Fisher was killed alongside Thompson in 1884 by the comrades of Jack Harris. King Fisher no doubt lived up to his name and ruled the Wild West like a king till his tragic end. Number 3. Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp was a well-known lawman who existed back in the Wild West era. He's one of the most well-documented personalities throughout the history. He was a skilled and feared gunslinger who acted like a Baba Yaga for the outlaws. Whether bandits or cowboys, all knew who Wyatt Earp was and respected him for his bravery and excellent gun skills. Earp traveled through different boomtowns such as Dodge City, Wichita, and the lawless town of Tombstone, and served as a sheriff there. The quote, "There's a new sheriff in town," perfectly fits Earp's personality. He was like a savior, the only one who could save innocent people from the ruthless bandits. Earp participated in numerous gunfights and came out victorious in the early 1800s. His gunfight at the OK Corral is undoubtedly one of the most famous among all, that perfectly represents the bravery of Wyatt Earp. The fight occurred back in 1881, when Earp, with his brothers Morgan and Virgil, and a close friend, Doc Holliday, came face-to-face with a group of cowboys they had previously arrested for robbing a stagecoach. The fight did damage to both parties. 3 men of the cowboys got killed, while except for Earp, his entire group got severely wounded. The fight ended with an obvious victory for Earp's group, but the comrades of the cowboys soon got their revenge by wounding Virgil and killing Morgan. The death of his brother infuriated Earp, so he, along with Doc Holliday, led an entire team of skilled gunfighters to take down those cowboy punks. Their mission went by the name of Vendetta Ride. The mission was successful, resulting in the death of several men of the cowboy group. Earp and the others fled from the scene, and his story is still one of the most exciting stories of the Wild West. It's said that Earp had killed 30 outlaws during his career, making him one of the deadliest gunslingers of all time. Number 4. Dallas Studenmeyer. Here comes another lawman, Dallas Studenmeyer. He may not be as popular as Wyatt Earp, but he was still a feared gunslinger, known for his amazing adventures. He was known to be involved in numerous gunfights, more than anyone on this entire list. He was an experienced and highly skilled gunfighter who made anyone taste the dust in less than a second. Due to his continuous involvements in gunfights, Dallas got wounded all the time. Due to suffering from severe wounds from the Civil War, he moved to the lawless city of El Paso. He played the role of a sheriff there, and in only 3 days of his deputy, Dallas got into the West one of the most legendary battles known as the 4 dead in 5 seconds gunfight. During the battle, Dallas displayed his remarkable skills and gunned down 3 men single-handedly. The fight didn't end just there. Only a few days later, the comrades of the men Dallas killed hired the town drunk to assassinate him. But thankfully, the plan got leaked to Studenmeyer, and he killed that man by shooting him 8 times, making sure to set an example. The incident only became a permanent mark, which clearly said, "Don't mess with the Sheriff Dallas Studenmeyer." After his famous battle, Dallas killed 6 more outlaws, fulfilling his duty as the town's savior. He instantly became the most feared lawman in the Wild West, but sadly, his era ended in 1882, when he was killed during a discussion between him and his enemies. The discussion eventually turned into a bloody gunfight, in which Dallas got shot 3 times, resulting in the death of a hero and another victory for the ruthless villains. Nothing lasts forever. Number 5. Billy the Kid. Henry McCarty, better known as the notorious Billy the Kid, was a petty thief who turned into an infamous murderer. During his early days, Billy was just a thief who used to pickpocket and steal horses from the barns. But at the age of 18, he committed his first murder. Billy was deputized even after his crime career in 1877 during the Lincoln County War. He joined the group of lawmen that was named the Regulators. They were on a mission of seeking the corrupt businessmen responsible for murdering an innocent rancher. The group was pretty violent and ruthless. Thanks to that, they were also labeled as outlaws. The group had no effect even after being regarded as outlaws. They went on a killing spree and killed 3 people in just 3 days, and among their victims included a sheriff and his deputy. They showed no mercy to anyone and killed anyone that opposed them. The law enforcement soon got involved and did their utmost to bring down Billy's group, which they did, and the group broke. But, unlike other group members, Billy managed to escape from being captured and created a new group. Billy, with his new gang, gained back his reputation through his notorious crimes, such as ruthlessly gunning down a gambler in a New Mexico saloon. The law enforcement officers were after Billy and his group. The entire situation was similar to a lion chasing after a deer, and Billy somehow managed to escape before they could capture him. Finally, after a lot of struggle, when Billy got arrested by the lawman, he was instantly sentenced to death. But again, he managed to escape when he got hold of one of the weapons and gunned down the men guarding him. His escape is no different from what we see in the movies. But it's the real world here. Luck isn't always on your side. Billy was on the run for over 3 months after escaping from jail, but was eventually killed in 1881 by Sheriff Pat Garrett and 2 of his deputies. Billy finally paid for what he had done over the years of his life. It's stated that he killed a total of 21 men, each regarded for his years of life. His notorious nature and ruthless acts will never be forgotten. Billy the Kid wasn't really a kid, after all. Number 6. Wild Bill Hickok. Wild Bill Hickok, or, more appropriately, the most legendary figure of the Wild West. He was an actor, gambler, lawman, and a gunfighter. He was known to be the best of the best gunslingers during his days, and his story is undoubtedly one of the most interesting ones on this list. Hickok started his career as a constable and a rider for the Pony Express. His talent for the guns was yet to be seen, but that soon emerged out of him when he skillfully killed an outlaw, David McCandless, while being 75 yards away from him with a single damn bullet. Hickok was quick and genius during gunfights. He took no time while drawing his gun, and the excellent aim was just the icing on top of the cake. He was the perfection of the Wild West. Later on, he killed another man named Davis Tutt, Jr. over a gambling dispute. In 1869, Hickok stood up for the elections for the new sheriff of Ellis County, Kansas. He won the elections relatively easily and got right on the job. And in just 1 month, he labeled 2 men with his bullet. His heroic style and excellent skills were enough to make him famous. But what makes him even more popular is not his adventures, but his death. If you're a poker player, you've probably heard of the term dead man's hand. But do you know of its origin? Well, the term actually originated from the death of Hickok. In 1876, Wild Bill was playing poker when he was shot in the back of his head by a fellow gambler named Jack McCall. The reason for the murder was quite acceptable after all. Bill had a big mouth from which words slip out all the time. In short, Bill insulted Jack, and Jack insulted him back, but with a gun. The interesting part is Wild Bill Hickok was holding a pair of aces and eights before getting his brains all over the place. So whenever you get a dead man's hand, remember to wear a bulletproof helmet, because that didn't go well for our cowboy. Number 7. Clay Allison. Clay Allison is undoubtedly the most violent outlaw in the Wild West era. He was ruthless and kind of psychotic as well. He had no mercy and feared no one, but everyone else feared him. He was a gunfighter and is still remembered as the most notorious outlaw. His temper used to go up to the ceiling in seconds. Whenever he was angry, he did things that no sane man would ever do to another person. It's been reported that Allison fought for the Confederacy during the Civil War, but soon got discharged when he suffered from a severe blow to the head. That injury is considered to be the reason for Allison's temporal issues, meaning that his brutal actions were the result of an ailment. He's known to have beheaded a man who was suspected of murder and then took that head with him, right inside his favorite bar. His negative aura further increased when he went on to take part in gunfights against fellow gunslingers. His fight against the outlaw Chunk Colberg is among the most famous stories. Allison shot Chunk when he drew his gun at him, right after they had shared a meal at the same table. When people asked him why he ate with a man who wanted to kill him, Allison replied with undoubtedly one of the badass lines of all time: "I wouldn't want to send a man to hell on an empty stomach." Allison may be a mental case, but there's no denying that he was one of a kind. But sadly, a man like him got an unimpressive death that didn't live up to his reputation. In 1887, Allison fell off a moving wagon and broke his neck, dying instantly. His tombstone is inscribed with very unique words: Clay Allison, gentleman, gunfighter. He never killed a man that did not need killing. Number 8. Jim Killer Miller. If there's anyone more dangerous than Allison, then that person has to be the murderous criminal with a possible kill count of more than 50, Mr. Jim Killer Miller. An infamous figure who's known to be an expert assassin and gunfighter who would kill anyone for money. Whether it's a government officer or a famed sheriff, none is safe from Jim's bullet. Throw the money and you'll get the job done. There are so many stories about the Miller's adventures, but the most famous one has to be his confrontation with the sheriff, named Bud Frazier. Miller was the prime suspect in the murder of a cattle rancher. Frazier shot Miller 6 times when he drew his gun at him, and he had thought that he had ended Miller's life. But little did he know the genius mastermind was wearing a metal plate underneath his shirt, allowing him to survive all 6 shots fired at him. And after 2 long years, he tracked Frazier down and finished the unfinished job with a shotgun. The entire incident displayed the coolness and coldness of Jim's mentality. In 1909, his reign finally came to an end when he got arrested for murdering a U.S. Marshal. A mob of around 40 people broke into the prison and dragged Miller along with 3 other outlaws to a nearby barn. There, they lynched him with the rest of the guys. Before being hanged, Miller shouted his last words, "Let her rip," and jumped off the box himself. His death left an indelible mark on all the witnesses. Number 9. Tom Horn. Tom Horn was a lawman who turned into an outlaw. He was an ex-detective and a bounty hunter in the 1880s, and was responsible for tracking and capturing numerous feared criminals. He was one of the best figures of his time, but aside from being a good guy, he was also a notorious killer. Horn was eerily attached to the violence and was known to take pleasure in doing such tasks. He was cold-blooded, and all these things didn't go unnoticed. The Pinkerton Detective Agency noticed Horn's cold behavior, and in 1894 they made him forcefully resign from his post, especially after being linked to 17 murders. After his resignation, Horn gained his reputation as a notorious killer to hire, and even committed 7 murders over the years. In 1901, he was finally hanged in the case of murdering a 14-year-old boy. But historians say that this was the only time when Horn was innocent. But there's no denying the fact that he's involved in murdering over 50 people. Number 10. John Wesley Harden. The youngest and the bloodthirsty gunslinger on our list, killed more than 42 people. He started his murder spree when he was only 14. He stabbed a fellow student to death in a schoolyard. When he turned 15, he killed an ex-enslaved person, gunned down 3 Union soldiers, and went into hiding. He was famous for carrying 2 pistols strapped to his chest, which allowed him to quickly draw his gun and let the opponent taste the bullets. While on the run, John killed 3 more people in numerous gunfights and was finally arrested at the age of 17 for gunning down the Texas City Marshal. When he was sent to jail, John managed to get a gun inside with him, which he used to kill one of his guards and start the cat-and-mouse chase once again. His reputation as a notorious gunfighter was already at its peak, so he made his way toward Abilene, but this time, Wild Bill Hickok was over his neck. So he once again fled the city before shooting a fellow guest in the hotel he was staying. When asked why he killed him, he replied he was snoring loudly, which kept him awake. At the age of 25, John got arrested by Texas Rangers, and this time he served 16 years in jail and was released at the age of 41. John had finally redeemed himself after staying so long behind bars. He started studying law and passed the bar, but his crimes caught up to him, and in 1895 he was shot in the back by a lawman in El Paso, Texas. And with that, we're done with today's video. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Smash that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you guys in the next one.